It's Janae Bauer, the inspiration and transformation that you need to make a breakthrough to inspire you. And I am thrilled to be here today. As we close out the end of 2014, I just want to thank you for being with me in whatever part of the journey we've met along the way. And as I was thinking about what kind of gift could I use to say thank you for just being part of my life, inspiring me in some way to keep moving ahead on my own purpose and mission, I thought, what better gift than to give you the inspiration and transformation to help you be more bravely. Last week, I had the great fortune to be able to create this presentation for my MOPS group, which is Mothers of Preschoolers. And our theme for the year at MOPS is Be You Bravely. And I was thinking about this presentation. I was asking the leaders, should I do and share the inspirational part of my business, Finding It, where I work with inspired women, helping them live balanced, purposeful lives? Or should I do the faith-based side of my business, where I do faith walk retreats and work with inspired Christian women and combine that faith-based message as it's the Advent season and Christmas time? And, you know, they said both. And it was interesting as I put it all together and I thought, to be me bravely is to combine both. Typically, I focus and I have one audience or the other, but truly who I am, the heart of me, is both. And so as I share with you this presentation, it is an opportunity for me to step out and be more bravely and to share with you truly who I am and what matters most to me. And as I share this, I ask that, and my prayer is that there will be something in your heart that will touch you deeply. I believe you are here and listening to this for a very specific reason. God has a message He wants to plant in your heart. And I ask that you'll open the eyes of your heart so you can hear that and know that and bring that with you in 2015. So let's get started. What you have in front of you are two things. You have a handout. So make sure if you haven't yet, go ahead and download this handout that says Be You More Bravely. And we'll use this to walk through. There's some fill-in blanks and some key information for the presentation. And the other thing is that you have a that I'll be sharing with you as a PowerPoint link, and then there might be some other resources I'll refer to as well. So I'll be sharing the PowerPoint presentation along with this through you to help you be more bravely. So as we start with that, this is a profound question that George Bernard Shaw was asked. At the end of his life, if you could come back to be anybody in the course of history, who would you be? And this famous playwright said something that has touched my heart very deeply. He said, if I could be anybody in the world, I would come back to be the man that I never was. And that's true for all of us. We have one life, we have one opportunity, we have one chance to truly make a difference in our lives. And, you know, gratefully, this life isn't all there is. There is, I believe, eternal life where we can have an internal difference. But right now, our job is to make the difference that we can. And when you are being you more bravely is how we can do that. So let's go ahead and get started with the presentation. I am opening up the screen share so that I can screen share the presentation notes. And in all honesty, being me bravely, this is my second time taping this because the first time I tried, my PowerPoint slides didn't work. So I'm trusting this time I figured out what the issue was and they will be working. So to be you bravely, walking in faith as your best inspired you. And this totally encompasses me as I share my passion of helping people walk in faith and develop their faith, and also how to be your best inspired you. Those are my true passions coming together in this presentation to give you that courage and that boldness to be you and step out in 2014. So the first part is looking, how do you be more bravely? And it starts with the heart of who you are. So if you go ahead and open up your handout, if you printed it out, it should be like a folder, like a program where it's folded in half. So the heart of you, who you are, that is the most important thing, is you need to start with the who. Who are you? Who did God make you to be? And it's not just who you are, because we wear a lot of different masks. It's the heart of you. At the very heart of you, who are you? And what is it? What is your joy? So many of you know, maybe some of you don't, but I wrote a book called The Little Girl Who Found It. And I was thinking about being more bravely. I thought this really, her story exemplifies that. So I just want to share with you a few pages from the book. There once was a little girl, just as happy as could be. Her life was filled with joy and love when she was young and free. Being so young, playing a ton, loving everyone, never in a hurry, never with a worry. Living it was fun. But suddenly something changed. The little girl grew up. And what she did as a little girl evolved into a spinning whirl. And it's at this point in the story where the little girl loses the heart of who she is. And she starts to cover it up, just like we all have throughout our lives. If you have any of those young ones in your life, they just are total heart. They're all of who they are, the good and the bad, right? But as we get older, we cover it up. And in the story, she tries to hide it or thinks she'll find it in a job or others, only to come to the end of her life and finally, suddenly she changes. The little girl grew wise from the inside out. And when we are at the heart of who we are wise, and we can let that light shine. It can't come from others. It comes from within, a special part of you that has always been. When you believe in yourself and in the one above, your life will be full of meaning, joy, peace, and love. Your heart will shine, hope will grow. It's a journey, long and slow. So friends, we are on this journey, and we're here together to walk this journey, being the heart of who we are. And I just hope that, you know, as you see this picture and as you walk in faith, the best way we can do it is being the heart of who we are, being our best inspired you. And that is my gift to you now. And my gift that I'll be bringing to you in 2015 is ways that you can be more of who you are. So let's look at this whole concept of how I see me. What is that joy? The heart of who I am is joy. And when we're living from a place of joy, we can bring more of our heart and delight to the world. Now, joy is an acronym that I've heard two different ways that I want to share with you. One way is joy being jewel of you. Your joy is your jewel of you. What is at the heart of hearts of you? And another way of looking at joy that I like from Mother Teresa said, joy can stand for Jesus, others, yourself. And she said, when you're living in that priority, you have an endless joy that will never go away, even despite the hard times. So what is it? What is your joy? And just reflect on that question. Now, to help you figure out the heart of who you are, there's this exercise that I've done that's been really helpful for me. It's to describe how I see me in 3 words. So if you describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be? Because we each have a unique thumbprint. We each have a unique heartbeat. We each have unique gifts that we bring to the world. And what are yours? So the 3 I have, and obviously you can see I have 4 bullets here, and that was intentional. My 3 initially I had was inspirational, purposeful, and grateful. And then it came to me also faithful, and I didn't want to not include that. So I thought, you know what? Hey, I see me as these 4 core words, so I'm going to include them on there. And be brave yourself. What are words that you see you? Don't feel gosh, I better not say that or other people might not think about that. Let that go. How do you see you? And how do you see you positively? And then what would be 3 words you have for others? What is it that you want to bring to others? How do you want to bring your joy or sharing your heart to others? And for me, these 3 words have really resonated. I want to be about brightening, enlightening, and igniting people's lives. So whether it's a stranger who's just walking by and all I can do is smile or say hello or give a compliment, then I'm able to brighten their day. Or enlighten. I love learning and growing. In fact, I think it's probably an obsession that I have. And so whenever I'm in somebody's presence, I'm just always thinking about how could I help enlighten them on something new that might help them in their journey. But most of all, what I think is so important is that if there's a way that I could ignite, if I could be that spark of inspiration that gets the other person going. Because I can be all ignited, but it's only till we can have other hearts on fire that we can truly make a difference. And that's who I want to be. So what are the 3 words that you want to be and how you see yourself in showing up for others? So speaking of others, also how others see me. So it's really important that you're clear on how you see you, because oftentimes you see things that nobody else can see. And vice versa, sometimes others can see in us things that we can't see in ourselves. And there's this great assessment tool called the Fascination Advantage. And Sally Hogshead and her team put together this assessment. And I've been aware of it for a while, and I really, really like it. What's so cool about it is she talks about fascination and how do you fascinate others. And she said the most powerful, important way that we fascinate others is by being more of who we are. She shares that there's 7 ways to add value, and here are the 7 different ways. And this assessment, and it's scientific and psychological and it's all backed up, but basically when you take this assessment, it's not how you see yourself, but it's how others see you. And so it's really important to get that perspective as well. So I just want to share with you a little bit about mine to give you a taste of it to see if this might be something you might be inspired to check out. So my natural fascination strength is alarm and rebellion out of the 7 different areas. So my primary trigger came up as rebellion, which means you change the game with innovation. You're innovative, independent, creative, entrepreneurial. You invent and creative solutions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, for sure. And that's what I thought I would potentially be. The second one really surprised me with alarm, because if you notice back here, it talked about alarm protecting the details. And I thought, yeah, that's probably me the least. But it came up as my secondary trigger. You incite immediate and urgent action. You're more reliable, careful, results-oriented. You keep people on track and deadlines. And so it was just really interesting how this came up for me. But what's so cool about it is when you combine the 2, you really create what your archetype is. And I'm what's called the quick start. When you combine these 2 together, you have the quick start. It was interesting. So you get this whole report and information so you can be more of who you are and not apologize for it, which I think is really important. So you're the quick start. Your creative streak is coupled with a force that allows you to see things according to plan. You think and react in non-traditional ways. You're dedicated. You have a strong work ethic. You're innovative. You successfully deliver results, and you have a vision, and you follow through on your words. Now, when I read that, I'm like, oh my gosh, absolutely. And this got me really excited because I thought, oh my gosh, I totally get it now. And this explains this. So I just started to put together really this past decade of living it in my life, what I've been doing, and it's truly the quick start. I'm a creative, I'm an innovator, and these are all different products that I've either created created, written, come up with ministries that I've started, retreats, groups, movements, I don't know. I mean, just a lot of different things. And, part of me, I would beat myself up with saying, gosh, why can't you just pick one thing and stick with it? Like, if I just took one of these products and really tried to sell it or really tried to build it, maybe I wouldn't be all over the place. And yet when I found out about this advantage, and my advantage and how I fascinate people is I am a quick start. I mean, this is my gift, to get things started, to get people ignited, to get things going, and to say, you know what? This is awesome. And if you have a dream and you want to get, bring out those desires in your heart, let's get going. Let's do that. And so it just really gave me confirmation. So in your handout, how do you fascinate? Whether you decide to take this assessment or not, just think about that question and really be open to how others see you and how you can really embrace that. So there's a link down there. It starts with GOO.GL, and that's a shortened link that brings you directly to the assessment. And I love this tool so much. I'm an affiliate with them, and this brings you directly there. So I'd love if you see if there's a value to take it, because it truly has made a difference for me and how I are really showing up in the world. And now the third area is how God sees me. And this is, I believe, out of all of them, the most important, and how we should embrace, because God sees us, obviously we're created in his image, and he sees us in ways that obviously nobody else here can. And what's so critical is God sees us so beautifully. And I want to just talk about one aspect, is the I am statement. And this is powerful both from a sacred scriptural perspective, as well as an inspirational spiritual growth perspective as well. So let's go ahead and start with the scriptural piece. I am. When you think of the Old Testament, and God showed up to Moses in the burning bush, and Moses said to God, who are you? And who, should I say, called on me? God responded with, I am that I am. So God's name is many different names in the Bible, but I am is one of those. So it has power. And if you fast forward to the New Testament, when Jesus, who's God made manifest on earth, comes his son, and Jesus also uses many references of I am. He asks the disciples, well, who do people say I am? And then he responds when people ask who he is. He doesn't say flat out I'm Jesus. He says, I am the bread of life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am. And so these words I am are powerful. And I've also studied the words I am from the spiritual perspective as well. And it's interesting, Louise Hay, who has really been a pioneer in the whole affirmations and mindset and how we work our brains and our minds, there's a lot of research done on the powerful words of affirmations. And I am blank, how we describe who we are, makes a big difference to the world. So oftentimes we're saying, especially seasons in our life when we're busy, we're saying, I am tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, I'm crabby, I'm never going to get ahead. We just say all these negative affirmations, but the words I am are powerful. And so how you say I am, and Louise says, goes even to the extent that you can heal your body through what you say it. I am beautiful. I am healthy. I am love. I am full of God's grace. I am have enough time in the world, whatever it is. So I'd like you to reflect and think about, and as I'm doing all this, I forgot to mention, I really encourage you, I'm going to share with you these tidbits, but I would ask that you would give yourself the gift to take what I've done, and maybe you're going to come back to it, but to go and reflect and to take time to think about these statements. Journal, if you have a beautiful journal, that you can do so, and just think about what this means to you, because actually these statements and these words didn't just come to me easily. I put a lot of thought and reflection and prayer in those. But now that I have them, they're so powerful, and they're my way of staying on track during all the obstacles and distractions that we have on life. And so this I am statement, for me, I am a beacon of God's love shining the way, brightening, enlightening, and igniting those on the path of spiritual transformation. And so you'll notice those three words come up to me, some of my themes. And so this is how I believe God sees me, and how he created me and my special gifts, and how I want to also share the heart of who I am this way. So we looked at who we are, which is the most important thing if we're going to be brave. The second thing is what. So what are your heart's desires? And I mean this not just what are your goals, as we think about this typically at the end of the year, not just what are your dreams, but what are your heart's desires? Dr. Stephen Covey, one of my favorite heroes through all the work that he's done, one of the things he said that I'll never forget is that we live three lives. We live our public life, we live our private life, and we live a secret life. And this secret life is our deep inner life, our heart's desires. And he said how few people ever truly tap into them, and how few people ever truly live from our heart's desires. And I got to tell you, sharing this presentation with you right now, right in this moment, I am working from home. I'm able to do this and share me bravely in the things that matter most, is truly living out my heart's desires. And that's what I want to do more and step out into that more in 2015. And I want to hold your hand in your heart and do that with you as you share more of your heart's desires. So name it. What are those heart's desires? So if you have a minute here, you'll notice some of the bullets I have as circles and hearts. And the circles are for me to encourage you just to get it out there. Just take your intuition and share it. The hearts that I have out there really encourage you to ponder in your heart. What does this mean? What does that look like? Now, when we share our heart's desires, there is something that I wanted to share with you. Brendon Burchard wrote this new book called The Motivation Manifesto. And it's a really cool book that talks about how do you declare it? How do you then, we've named our heart's desires, and then how do you declare it to that next level? And so I'm just going to stop the screen sharing for a moment and put it back on me, because I wanted to read a bit from this area because it's so powerful on how he shares it. So the book is The Motivation Manifesto, and he says a couple of things, and I love how he starts out the book. The whole idea here is if we want this personal freedom and personal power in our life, we have to declare it. If we want to live from our heart's desires, not only do we have to name them, we have to declare them in our lives. We need to write down what matters. Check this out, how he starts the book. There comes a time in the lives of those destined for greatness when we must stand before the mirror of meaning and ask, why, having been endowed with the courageous heart of a lion, do we live as mice? We must look squarely into our own tired eyes and examine why we waste so much time sniffing at every distraction, why we cower at the thought of revealing our true selves to the world, why we scurry so quickly from conflict, and why we consent to play small. We must ask why we participate so humbly in society's frantic race, allowing ourselves into its mazes of mediocrity and settling for scraps of reward when nature has offered unlimited power, freedom and abundance to the bold, the determined, the creative, the independent, to each of us. We must ask if our desires to feel safe and accepted are in fact enslaving us to popular opinion and boredom. We must ask, when will we be ready to ascend to the next level of existence? Wow. Talk about our heart's desires and talk about declaring them for our lives. So in this book, which I have a link below if you're interested in, and I would highly recommend, he takes the concept of the Declaration of Independence and how we can go deeper on that. And I encourage you to do the same in the sense of declaring the independence, declaring the heart's desires, declaring the life that you want to design going forward for your life. How you're going to be you more bravely in 2015. So what I plan to do as I do my reflection of last year and what my plan is for this next year, I'm going to do my manifestos. I'm going to declare what those are. And then what you wanted to do is to paint the picture. How do you bring that alive? One moment, I just want to share with you one thing I do. So I just need to grab that for a second. All right. Thanks, I'm back. So this whole next part is painted. How do you bring the desires of your heart alive? And I love this because our mind thinks in visuals. And we need to understand that and be open to it. But it's not, to me, naming it is the first step. Just being brave enough to get it out of your heart and declaring it brings it to that next level of, you know what? I'm not going to be that mouse. I'm going to be that courageous lion and really live from my heart, what God created me to be. Then the third step to really bring it to life is to personalize it and create it for what matters most to you. And so I have different binders or vision boards or things that I do with my work in my life. And so this one is one that I just wanted to share with you, and it's probably kind of hard to see, but this is me and my heart's desires to live a lifestyle business, one where I can truly share the heart of who I am and my passions and what matters most to me in my life. And so here I've just declared what that looks like and what's important to me with my husband and my boys, because truly my work revolves around them. And so I really declared here what I see my business being. And having it visually for me to look at and bring it to life is incredible, because it just helps me to see it in a completely different way. So to truly bring those heart's desires and be brave, name it, declare it, and paint it. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the screen share so that we can move on to the next part of being able to take it to the heart, the why. All right, the who's important, the what, but the why is what is going to get you moving. I love Michael Hyatt when he talks about the concept of the messy middle. He said, you know what? No matter what happens, we get started and we're going to end something, but we always have the messy middle and the in between. And if we don't have our why are we really doing what we're going to do? It's going to be really hard to get through that messy middle. And this has helped me a ton as well to do that. So what does that messy middle look like? Is the why. What matters to you and the heart of what's important? So for me, my big why is because, I'm all about it, so that I could come to the end of my life and not say what George Bernard Shaw said and be somebody I wish I wasn't, but I did it. I did it. I lived myself bravely. I lived out my heart's desires. I did the best I could. It wasn't easy. It didn't look exactly how I wanted it, but I did it. I did it the best I could, and hopefully I inspired people along the way. And that just reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Oprah, who has obviously made tremendous impact in the world. And she said, one of the most important things, what she knows for sure, is that it's up to each of us to get very still and say, this is who I am. No one defines your life, only you do. And when we take delight in the Lord, as Psalm 37:4 tells us, when we take delight in the Lord, he will give us our heart's desires. And what's so cool about this is one of Oprah's favorite quotes, and I heard it on a show, which I don't think she necessarily combines on a lot of her shows, her true Christian faith with the work that she does. But when she talked about this being one of her favorite verses, she just laughed. She goes, I didn't realize I had so many desires in my heart, meaning all the things that she's done. But when we get to the why that matters, it makes such a difference. So you might have this is my big why, to not live with regrets, to know my life is precious, and that's why I'm that quick start. You know what I mean? I don't know the time I have tomorrow. I hope I have tomorrow, and I hope I have many, many tomorrows, like my grandmother who just turned 94 yesterday. I hope that that's what God's plan is for my life, but I don't know. So all I know is I have today, and I can live my heart's desires today, like sharing this with you today. So my why, I have a big why, but then you should have a why for each of your heart's desires. And my other big why is that really relates to my heart's desires is what matters most to me is my faith, my family, and my friends. So this is a picture of my family, my husband John, and my 3 boys, Gavin, Grant, and Garrett. And so what I encourage you to do is think about what matters most to you and then why that matters. So in your handout, what matters most to me, there's a blank line. So for each of your heart's desires, what I encourage you to do is write down what matters most to you so that what? The why. So why does your family matter? Let me give you an example. So my family matters so that we can be the best family we can be. This is again painting it a little mini vision board for my role as a family. How I bring this to life to me is we created in one of our family fun nights, a Friday evening that we have together once a month in each month. We created our Bauer Power Commitment. That each day as a family, we vow to be the holiest, happiest, healthiest, harmonious family that God created us to be. And what does that look like? How do we bring that to life? So we all talked about what that meant, and we created this commitment, our manifesto, our declarations, and then paint, what does that look like? So that we can live this, so that this can be the family that I won't regret having not spent more time with, or that it can be like my friend said, I want to raise kids that I want to hang out with when they're older, and it's only going to be my fault if I'm raising brats now that I won't want to be with later. And so we have that opportunity, and I feel so blessed to be a mother, to be able to share that. And so what are the things that matter to you so that the why? And then all you need to do is rinse and repeat with each desire. And that just brings it one step deeper into your heart, confirming it so you know the why. So when things get messy with my family, so when I have to discipline and there's challenges and problems, I can go back to this and remember, okay, this is what matters. This is our why. The next area is the where. So we've named the who, the what, the why, and now the where. So as inspired women, we are the heart of the home. And so how do we, as Focus on the Family says, how do we turn our hearts toward home and really nurture our hearts? And I believe that there's 2 ways we need to do that. First of all, we have to be inspired. If we are not inspired, there is no way we can do the next thing, which is inspire others. And when I talk about inspiration, I mean 2 things. First of all, what inspires our hearts? And this is a great question. And when you can learn how to live in this inspired state, it is amazing what you can do and what you can accomplish and who you can be and how you can show up just because you're inspired, you're excited, you're grateful for life. So you need to understand how you want to feed your heart, but then have a place in your home you can do that. And this is where I have what is called my God cave. So I'm in my office right now. Some of that might look familiar. But I have this particular area where I have my Pompey-San chair with special books and blankets and different things. And then I also have a shelf, which is like my spiritual altar, my things that matter most, and pictures of, and statues and words and phrases and different things that just really speak to my heart. And every time I'm in that place, I can get to that state of being inspired. So I encourage you to find a place, whether it's just a chair. I had somebody in a presentation say, it's my bath and my treadmill. Then great. Find that, find what inspires you and stick to that. My husband and I joke because my husband's a very clutter-free person. If the house was totally up to me, my whole house would probably have inspirational things completely around our house, but he wants to keep things very simple, and I can respect that, so we've compromised. But I said, not in this area. This is about me and my heart, and so this is what I need, and so we can respect that, because then we can inspire others. So who in your heart, in your home, do we inspire? Because that's where it starts. We are given, God's given us the mission field of our own hearts and the hearts of our closest loved ones. And for me, that is my husband and my children. And my most important job in my life right now is being a mother. I've been gifted these 3 beautiful boys. And how do I inspire their hearts? And so what's helped me, because I'm such a learner and I like to be intentional, I am pursuing right now my master's in motherhood. So I have a master's degree in training and development, and it just struck me that that has been invaluable to my work and how I do my work. And I thought, you know what? My job being a mother is priceless, right? And yet unless you're intentional, there's not a guide in how to do it. And it's hard to make time to do it because you're so busy just taking care of the daily. But I've intentionally put out of how do I want to be and pursue my master's in motherhood. And this has really impacted in how I spend time with my children and making it formal and doing different things. So those are just 2 examples for in my life of where to do this, because once we've inspired our own hearts and the hearts of those around us in our home, then we can start to inspire the hearts and homes around us as well. All right, now we're at the win, how to follow your heart. This is on the back side of your program and handout. So typically when we're going to do this, I'll tell you what, you will never find the time. So you need to make the time. And this is one of the things that I really have realized about myself that's really different than a lot of people, is that I find the time for this. I will skip many other things to make sure I find the time to follow my heart and make time for what matters most, the important things in life. And so how we're going to do that, and I just want to share with you a process, but depending on if you're listening to this now, soon, we're in the Christmas Advent season, so I'm just going to share with you a process that has worked well. But if you're listening to this at another time of the year, I encourage you to think about when you could do this same type of thing, but during that season. So maybe it's at the beginning of the year, or maybe it's during the summer, and how could I use this concept then? Or back to school time, that you could think about the steps. So here's what it looks like, is that there's 3 or 4 different things. And what happened to me a year ago this time is that it was the Advent season, and I had this opportunity to be part of this really cool Advent journey. And so it was with a woman who I had just met. She's an awesome inspirational Catholic evangelist and speaker, Kelly Walquist, and she and I got connected because of our work with wanting to inspire Christian women. And so in our church, we're Catholic, and the Holy Father, Pope Francis, wrote a new letter called The Joy of the Gospel. And her idea was on her blog is to really break that down each day, to read a part of it, and then to have some commentary from another Catholic speaker, writer from across the country reflect on it, so then that we could then tie it into our own lives. So it's this great opportunity, and she encouraged me if I wanted to be a part of it. And I thought, first I just want to experience what this is. So during Advent, it was one of the first times I truly put Advent first for me personally. And it was a great example and process. So the whole idea of the first step is the preparation and preparing and being really intentional about something to study. So I encourage you now, if you're still listening to this during the Advent season, to take some time to ponder what I've been sharing with you and what does this mean to your heart. Then the second thing, and that then Advent brought us to Christmas. And then the whole idea was Christmas is celebrating the birth of Jesus. Well, the thought was I was inspired then to take it to the next level and say, well, let's just not inspire them, but how can we send them and really apply this in our lives? So how could we birth Jesus in our own hearts after this message that our Holy Father has given us to take it to that next level? So then the idea of there's 12 days of Christmas where we can really unwrap and examine what this means to us. So what happens so much in our learning is that we'll learn something and then we'll, boom, move on right away to how we're going to implement it. But I encourage you to step back and really examine and reflect of, okay, unwrap it a little bit. Like, don't just quickly unwrap your gifts and get to the gift. Take your time, think about it. Okay, what does this mean? What does that mean to my life? How does that touch my heart? Or how's that different? Really get deep into your life to think about that. And then the last part is the jubilation. So, and this worked out well in the time of Epiphany because we celebrate the Epiphany as when the three kings are bringing their gifts. They're presenting to Jesus a gift in honoring him. And so the idea of this experience, and I'm using this as a metaphor so that you can do this too, is what was then the new gift after I experienced this new learning? What was going to be the new gift I was going to bring to Jesus in my life? The new gift that I could be a different way. And so I'll share with you mine, what I did a year ago on Epiphany, and then think for you, how can you follow your heart and be intentional and present a new way of being. So for me, when Epiphany came, I thought, well, of course I need to follow my model and do this. And what I did was I presented to Jesus in my heart. I thought this was the greatest gift that I could give him. And my heart to inspire and transform hearts is truly my purpose in life. And so I thought, wow, if I give him this, then that means he can use it in a way that can not only use me and my purpose, but benefit him and his message and the people he wants to get across. And so I got to tell you, this experience changed my life, and my heart has never been the same. And I'm just really excited to see where this journey will take. And presenting yourself in a new way of being you bravely, the heart of who you are, the heart of who you are made, is what you need to do. And take some time to follow your heart and go deep and figure out what it might do and where you can go. Then the last step is the heart work, the how. So I say heart work versus homework because, and also I almost said hard work because it's both.
It's also the homework. It is hard work, but it is hard work. It's really starting from the heart. And I kept this specifically for the end because what happens whenever we set dreams or intentions or desires, we always go to the how. Well, how am I going to do it? You know, the great news is if you've gone through the process that I just shared with you and you truly commit to being you bravely, when you get to the how, so much of the how will already be revealed to you. God will do the heavy lifting. He will let you know how to do this. And I love this because it's not up to me. Of course, I'm the one who has to take the action. That's where the hard work comes in. I mean, He might show me the steps I need to take, and then I have to take them. I can't expect someone else who's going to do that for me, but I don't have to figure out the best way to do this because He knows the greater plan. He knows how I need to progress further, and I can leave that up to Him. But it's funny because I think what happens to so much of it, because we have the how comes into us so much, we have so much to do. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could just bring our own SWAT team in? I think of that. I thought, okay, man, if I had my own SWAT team and they could come in and help me, I could sure get a lot done. Well, there's good and bad news. The bad news is, unless there's a dire situation, chances are we're not going to get our physical SWAT team, but we do have a divine SWAT team that I think very few of us utilize. And they're just waiting to fly in and help us and flood us with their graces and their help on a daily basis. And so I took this analogy and made an analogy, kind of flipped it around to be our heavenly SWAT team, but switched it to SMAT, if you notice. So let's start at the bottom there. What does this acronym stand for? T stands for Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. A stands for angels. We have angels surrounding us, ready to help us. M stands for Mary, Jesus' mother, who was closest to the heart of Jesus on earth and is here to be that spiritual mother for us and guide us and love us. And then S for the saints. These are the holy people who have walked on earth and can show us a new way of being. And this heavenly SWAT team, through Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit, the Trinity, the saints, the angels, Mary, can just bring us to a whole new level. So call in your SWAT team, and I do this often, and it's amazing how the heavenly help can be there. Now, the other thing I want to share with you is faith. I was just listening to something today, Chip Ingram from Living on the Edge. He talked about God's not interested in how much we do, how much we make. The only thing He's interested in is how big is our faith. How much do we trust Him? The verse from Luke 17 says, increase our faith. This is what the disciples, once they said yes, they were like, help us. How do we have the faith to really do what we're going to do? Because it's always like we're on that teeter-totter between balancing our faith and our fear. And I've studied this concept a lot, and I talk about it in my Faith Walk retreats because it's so powerful. Every day we're faced with this. Do we come out in more faith, or do we shelter or cower in more fear? Kind of like Brendon Burchard said. And so, unfortunately, we oftentimes choose the fear. And I just want to be clear when I'm saying fear, it's not fearing God, because there's a lot, in the Bible that talks about how we need to fear or revere God. It's not that kind of fear. The kind of fear I'm talking about is false expectations appearing real. It's probably an acronym that you've seen before, but this is the kind of fear, the fear that paralyzes us. It disables us for moving ahead, the kind of fear that gets our limiting beliefs all clustered in our mind. But we need faith. So I said, hey, fear has an acronym. Well, what's the acronym for faith? So I made one up, meaning favorable assurance in trusting Him. When we have faith, we can know we are God's favor. He has favor for us. Oh my gosh, if you ever have a chance to read Joel Osteen's work, he really combines how God just has such great favor in our lives, that God is there to bring us favor. What we touch will turn to gold. He wants to bring that. And so when we can have that insurance and really trust him, that's when we have faith. So as I've been studying this and thinking about, well, how does this work? I came up with this idea of a fear and faith zone that I want to share with you. So there's also a link that you can download this, and I'd really encourage you to do so. And use this as you start to walk ahead in those heart's desires of being more bravely next year. You can use these concepts to help you with this. So you have, on one end of the zone, you have fear and you have faith, and either high or low. So on this end, if we have low faith but high fear, we're in the panic zone. That means, I'm not interested in doing that. In fact, when I was getting ready for my presentation I did at MOPS, one of the women came up to me and she goes, oh, I didn't know you're a speaker. And I said, yes, I love it. And I'm so excited. She goes, she had to speak in front of a group because her daughter is part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, unfortunately because of her cancer. And she said, I had to share about my daughter's story. And she goes, I was panicking. It was not fun. So there, her fear was higher than her faith. And yet oftentimes what happens to us is the reverse. We have high faith, but low fear. That means we're in the procrastination zone. We are too comfortable. All the experts that I study on goal setting talk about we got to get out of our comfort zone. We have to take a risk. Chip Ingram today talked about that. And many of the spiritual teachers talk about you have to risk. God will use you and risk. He will give you the faith and show you what that is, but we got to take that first risk, right? So I think where we want to be and where God wants us to be is what's called the progress zone, which means we step out, we take a step in faith, and our fear increases. Then we step out of the fear, and then we're matched with faith, and we just keep stepping through, and that's the progress zone. That's where we want to be. So again, I encourage you to take one of your heart's desires and plug that in and see where you fall on the grid. So I just wanted to share with you some heartfelt resources I have with you now, that might help you on being you more bravely. And then what I plan to do going forward in hopes of serving you even more and being more true to myself in sharing that, and also serving you as well. So the antidote, I think, to anything in life is gratitude. And it is so powerful in my own life that I've created movement around it, products around it. So I just wanted to share, at any time that you're not feeling yourself more bravely, is you need to have more gratitude and thankfulness. So typically what I do in those situations is then it's time to give my gratitude and share that with others. So there's these great gratitude cards that I have, products that might be able to help you with that piece. And then I shared with you my little girl who found it book, the story of truly living it, being brave, living from the heart of who you are and the joy. So these are just some great keepsake products that you can use to share the message with others for girls and boys of all ages. Also, I mentioned the idea of walking by faith and having a special journal to do that. So one of the things I tend to do for myself personally as I'm going on a new adventure in my life, I will grab a special journal. And this special journal will just be a chance for me to capture my journey, the highs and lows, what I'm feeling, ideas that may come to me. And it's just a great way to do that. So maybe as you think about this being you more bravely, stepping out as your inspired you in faith, maybe you want to do that. So here's a resource, you could do that. And I mentioned the whole idea about me being a quick start. So I took that knowledge and I said, oh my gosh, I can help people jumpstart. I am truly passionate about being that spark of inspiration and get people going. In fact, one of my colleagues, for years we would see each other, and she always admired that I had gotten a book done because she had a book in her. And I know many of you do too. But it's that idea of she's just like, I go, okay. I'm like, all right, let's get started on it. What can we do? Get you started. And that's how I fascinate. And so I have this great Jumpstart It program, which is really a self-assessment guided through me and inspiration to get you started on the things that matter most and help you reflect and plan on your life. And then you also get a life coaching session with me as well for that. So just some resources that I've already developed that I really felt could help you be more bravely. And if you think so, great. And I'll have links down there for you as well. And then I encourage you to take some of that time. How are you going to step out and be more bravely in 2015? And don't just think of it as your New Year's resolutions. Think of how are you going to put the pieces of your puzzle together in your heart? How are you just going to put one more piece that brings your heart more complete? And be bravely. Who do you need to be to step out that way? Versus always what do you need to do? Remember, the how will come later, but who do you need to be? I want to be more loving and be more serving to you and help you do this. And while I'm doing that, it forces me to be it as well. So a couple of things I have coming up that I'm super excited about and we'll share with you later is that to truly help you in your faith walk and helping you love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, I'm going to be having this Love Affair with God experiential, transformational, self-study kind of a program that I'm in the middle of kind of building and creating. So I had this incredible year experience where I experienced this, and it really jump-started and increased my faith walk and just put so many things in perspective that I'm going to be sharing that with you, which is, again, one side of my passion that's so critical. And then the other side that I am super excited about as well is helping you be your best inspired self. So having a program and a way to help you break through to inspired you, because those true breakthroughs in life will not happen by just drifting there. We have to break through the walls. We have to break through the barriers. We have to break through our minds to do that. And when we are our best inspired you and we study ourselves with that intensity, there's just nothing you can't do when you're your best inspired you. So I'm super excited what this will look like as I step out in that way. And in closing words, may you be you bravely as you walk in faith as your best inspired you. I wanted to end with a quote. This is a book that all of us in MOPS had gotten, and it was just a great way to end that presentation as well as the one I'm sharing with you today. And it says, "Here is the truth, friend. You are a force to be reckoned with, a life giver and a world changer. The future beckons to you. May this experiment with courage remind you of the creative power that breathed life into your bones. May your soul feel like springtime. May you hear the whispers of a dangerous God who calls you to risk bravely and love bigger. And may you find within the pages of this book, the pages of your life, the courage to be you bravely."